Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome, everybody, to today's webinar, which is leveraging your technology. I like to do webinars on a variety of different topics. So this one is really about sort of how to streamline things in your business and, make running your business a little bit more efficient. Just a quick overview about me. I'm Tamsin Jefferson-Harvey, and I run Seed Accounting Solutions. I set up Seed Accounting in January 2015, just after I had my second child. And we've steadily grown both in team and in clients. And really my passion is in making accounting services and business advisory services accessible to all businesses, regardless of size. And it's been a commitment of mine, I suppose, through the business to make sure that accountancy and business finance is communicated in an easy to understand manner. There's no jargon. We also like to say Accountanese. It's like a foreign language. So that's that. And here I am doing webinars, which I started doing in lockdown at the beginning, in the first lockdown, and I've just continued doing, because I do really enjoy doing them. So thought of the day. I always like to start a webinar with a thought. And this is by Peter Drucker. He's always got brilliant quotes. I've posted a few of them, I think, on social media as well. This one, efficiency is doing better what is already being done. So, it's not about thinking outside the box and getting new things and doing that. It's just doing things a little bit better. So there are so many processes and systems in your business. Some of them might already be systemized, some might be manual, but by leveraging the technology that you have available, you'll increase your efficiency and therefore you'll save time and hopefully reduce stress. Just to finish off this slide, actually, it's nothing to do with the quote. It actually relates back to the disclaimer on my previous slide, which is that this information is general in nature. I can't be held responsible for anything that happens. So if you do have any specific questions specific to your business and your requirements, please do get in touch or speak to the relevant professional service advisor. So this is the agenda. So I'm sure you have spent hours researching potential new technology or an app. It could have been that you Googled it. It could have been that you go into Facebook groups and ask, people what they recommend. And then you kind of load it up, you start working on it, and then you find out that you've got some huge major process missing that you desperately need. There is often situations where you end up with two different technologies or two softwares, and you wish that they could just talk to each other, and then you don't have to sort of duplicate the workload. It's quite likely that there is an app out there that meets your needs and syncs with other apps that you use, and sometimes you just don't know what they are and where they are. So this webinar today is going to provide you with some insights from our experience with business processes and apps in your type of business. So I had a quick look. I researched you all. Not really. Well, I did a little bit of light research for the people who registered for this session. And most of you are in the e-commerce or professional services industry, which I would expect based on my client base. So I am only going to be talking about them. So in point 4, industry specific issues, I'm only going to be covering e-commerce and professional services. If there is anybody who would like me to talk more specifically about another industry, it's probably best that we just take that offline and deal with it one-to-one. Well, not offline, it's always going to be online at the moment, but off the webinar. So once we've gone through recommended processes for those industry specific issues, we will sort of help choose and implement apps, and finally some resources to help with your next steps. So to kickstart, we are going to talk about the benefits of systemization. In my view, they are perfectly captured in what we refer to as the 3 S's. Very original title. Every business needs all 3 of these. Sustainability means the business can operate without heavy reliance on owners. Scalability means that the systems and procedures that are in place will allow the business to grow without the wheels falling off. How would your business systems cope if your turnover doubled? You might think that everything's there, but would your systems cope? We had a situation last year where one of our clients, Xero, conked out because it imported too many transactions, and Xero can actually only deal with a certain number of transactions in any one day. Saleability is, as you did expect, the business needs to be attractive for a future buyer. Having great systems and less reliance on owners increases the value of your business. Now, it might be that in your business, you're not looking to sell it. However, if that is something that you are doing, and generally most people would look to build up their business and either sell it or hand it over to a partner or their employees or whatever. So that is generally the way businesses would go. Or it might be that you just choose to wind it down. But regardless, if you think about saleability, you'll be thinking about the sort of end game, I suppose. Obviously, there are many other benefits of systemization, such as efficiency, consistency, quality, ease of training, cost savings. But in reality, all of those other benefits kind of fall into those three main areas. So we just sort of talk about those three. And yeah, so the efficiency and the consistency and the quality and ease of training and so on all fit into those three, or they feed into those three benefits. We often refer to the technology systems you use as your app stack, and you'll see this written a lot. Accountants love talking about app stacks. Well, I certainly do anyway. And it seems to be a sort of buzzword that's come out in the last couple of years. And this is what we are going to be talking about today: how to enhance your 3 S's using your app stack. Okay, so what is your app stack? Okay, let's put a frame of reference around today's webinar. What are the 4 components of your app stack? Firstly, you're going to have all of your existing apps, regardless of whether they're pre-built or custom-built systems, even a spreadsheet with complex formulas, tables, and interconnectivity, or a very basic spreadsheet in some instances. So all the software tools in the business. However, how the information is passed between these systems is also part of the stack. Integration saves you time and it reduces errors as it avoids the need for double entry. For example, if somebody fills in your website contact us page, does it automatically generate a client in your customer database or your CRM? If you create a proposal or a quote, does it flow straight into your invoicing and job management systems? How do you reconcile online credit card payments? All of these things are integrations. And this is a really important point. Most apps will tell you who they integrate with, but not actually give you all that much detail of how they integrate. And this is what will often end up being a problem with software. You think, great, these two integrate, you sign up, and then you suddenly realize that it doesn't integrate in the way that you want to. So for example, can your system handle retainer invoicing? What level of information is pulled through from each system and delivered into the other one? So how those integrations work is really key to make sure that you've got, that you've researched and you understand. The third piece of the stack puzzle is the platform the apps or puzzles are run on. Do you have in-house equipment? Do you run on an outsourced service? Do you have a server? Or are you already using the cloud? Now, it might sound like a foreign language to you. I don't know what all of your sort of tech knowledge is, but I'm going to assume that everybody knows nothing, because that's generally the basis of education. You assume everyone knows nothing. So obviously the benefit of having access to the cloud is that you can access your systems and softwares you use from anywhere, from any machine, anywhere in the world, at any time of day. You don't have to worry about a server being turned on or a laptop being turned on or a specific desktop computer being turned on. You can access that information anywhere in the world. So, for example, the ability to code your bank transactions while on the train. I always used to, a long time ago when I was self-employed and I had Xero, I used to use my bus stop waiting time to reconcile my Xero bank account. I was obviously on the bus quite a lot. And it was filling up a bit of dead time. I mean, obviously nowadays we have fancy apps that tell us when the buses are coming. So I don't tend to hang around at bus stops for too long anymore. And then the final critical piece is how you back up your data and ensure customer information and business interactions are secure. The global pandemic has taught us many things, one of which is how important it is to keep your data safe and accessible from any location. There are also strict privacy laws around the world, and you obviously need to make sure your technology complies with this. Now, GDPR is one of them as well. And we have had quite a lot of issues recently with GDPR and finding out that certain, not me specifically, but in the accountancy world, that some of the technologies that we've been using are not GDPR compliant. And there are some, so for example, Wave, which it was a free accounting software, I suppose, they stopped being GDPR compliant. They decided that they wanted to focus on the US and Canada, and therefore they weren't going to invest in making sure that they were GDPR compliant for the UK and Europe. And they've now pulled the plug entirely on the UK and Europe and providing support. So just make sure that you do your research. Generally, if a software does adhere to the relevant privacy legislation in the UK, then it will say that it is. But you might just want to double check, especially if you're using something weird and wonderful. So that's your app stack. Now, why is your app stack worthy of all of this attention? So first of all, systems and processes are essential for growth. As your business grows, bottlenecks appear. Technology and improved systems can help reduce those bottlenecks. High growth businesses must have systems in place to handle the growth predicted in their marketing plans. For example, the increase in customers, projects, or sales volumes need to be sort of considered. Manual systems just won't cut it. You know, you'll need to make sure that, well, I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of people with beautiful spreadsheets with all kinds of macros in there, but at some point it will break, as I'm sure people have experienced in the past. Your technology stack has a direct impact on profitability. A bad app stack can reduce your profitability by costing your sales due to lack of sales process tools or inaccurate costings. It can increase your costs due to wasted time, tasks being done in the wrong order, inability to manage due to lack of process, or just duplication of labor, you know, having to enter one thing in one system and then enter it again into another one. Good data is critical to make good business decisions. And this is something that has become very apparent to many business owners in the last year. And I might have been harping on about it from prior to that. But in the last year, people have realized the importance of having clean and accurate data so that you can make good business decisions, you know, like whether the business is profitable or a project is profitable. Looking at your different income streams and deciding which ones you need to, you know, put more effort into, which ones are the sort of profitable ones, which one makes you more money. The more up to date and accurate your data is, the better your decisions will be. Your technology stack can help increase team efficiency and customer satisfaction. And having documented processes and systems is essential to ensure your business is efficient and you have a happy team environment and happy customers. And again, if you're currently working from home with a remote team, you know, if you've ended up all spread out, you have to be able to all access real-time data and not wait for, you know, someone to upload something and then download it and then, you know, review all of the work. You just want everyone to be dealing with live data. And finally, technology provides a greater ability to work. The right tools will help you and your team work where and when they want to, on site, remotely, in the office, wherever they need to be. You know, if you think about the amount of times, well, especially at the moment, for example, we've got children at home and we're all working from home. You know, are your team able to work? I heard of situations where accountants were literally sort of getting vans with, I laugh, it's a bit mean, but, you know, vans and getting all of their filing cabinets and taking all of the servers and things back to their homes in the first lockdown because they were all paper-based and they hadn't adopted enough cloud technology in their business. You know, and I'm sure it wasn't only accountants, I'm sure there's plenty of other businesses that were faced with the same predicament, especially in the first lockdown. I would hope by now there have been more adaptations. But it takes time, especially for the larger businesses. And that really is the benefit of smaller ones, is that you can generally adapt a little bit more easily. Now we move on to the productivity pyramid. If any of you have attended any of my other webinars, I have discussed this before. It's a well-used graphic, but basically this shows us how we can get better leverage from our business and how we can work smarter, not harder. So step 1 of the pyramid is about getting better at what you're doing. So we're starting down at the bottom on improve. So by undertaking training, studying, continuing professional development, or CPD, and so on, those kinds of things, getting better at utilizing the technology you already have in your business is really important at this stage. A lot of software providers will give you an onboarding session or an onboarding webinar. For example, when we take on new clients, we give them Xero and Receipt Bank training, but a lot of other tools will give you, they're fairly adept now at sort of providing a good onboarding process, and their support is quite handy as well at that point. Step 2 is increasing the number of people doing the work in your business, either by employing or contracting new people to help you free up more time to move up the pyramid. Remember, your team will need to know how to use existing technologies and systems. Now, I appreciate for some of you on this call that having a team might not be relevant, indeed it might never be relevant. However, if you always think about who needs, if you think about it, if you were to scale your business and who needs to be using which tools, you can think a little bit more outside of the box, and it's what we call the 10 hats in every business. Ultimately, you have, even if it's just you in your business, there are 10 hats. I'm not going to go into all of them, but if you think about, you've got a shareholder, you've got who basically receives the profits of the business. You've got the board who are dictating what the business does. You've got finance, operations, sales, marketing, HR, IT and admin. There's a whole load of different hats, and it's really important to think about all of those different hats in your business, even if it's just you, and think about what each of those people or hats would require. Step 3 is to then invest in better systems to increase efficiency. For example, systems to automate booking appointments, providing reminders to customers, or creating invoices as soon as your quotes have been accepted. Those are some really basic ideas that you can use technology for to streamline and automate things. This is what we're talking about today, this technology that you could adopt to increase your efficiency. But first, everybody on your team must already be using your existing systems and technology well, so that they can then be involved in finding better ways of working. You don't want to get all of those tools in and then get your team. You kind of need to get the team on board with how the business operates first. Step 4 is to invent your own systems or technology which suit your business. This could be improving the way your technology integrates. So it's not literally building a bespoke software, but it could be looking at which tools that you already have are, can integrate with others and basically improve those systems. So for example, you might already have Xero, but you want to integrate it with a time management or a stock management system. You effectively invent the way those systems talk to each other in a way that gives you the information you need in the most efficient and accurate way. Now, Xero integrates with hundreds, and QuickBooks also integrates with quite a few, not as many as Xero, but they do integrate with a lot. Both of them integrate with an awful lot of other tools. Now, they don't always necessarily do like, and that's going back to that, the previous slide where I was saying, just because they integrate doesn't mean they tell you how they integrate. And it might actually be that you need them to provide something else, some other different information. And there's a really good tool called Zapier. I think it's called Zapier or Zapier. I'm not quite sure how to say it, which connects two different systems to each other. So it might be that they don't have a direct integration, but you might be able to use Zapier. I think it's Zapier because they talk about Zaps to connect them. And then finally, step 5, it's all about innovation, where you receive the highest possible return with the lowest time investment. And at this stage, you might even consider throwing out a number of the systems that you're currently using in favor of one that avoids the need for complex integrations. And that might be the time that you decide that you're going to invest in a more expensive or a bespoke technology solution that gives you better information and a much better return. I guess, well, actually on a much more basic level, it might be that you just do away with all of your millions of different spreadsheets and get zero. That could be that could be how you innovate. You're working better on things and improving your time. So that's the productivity pyramid. So now you know that you need an app stack, or pretty much everybody has one anyway, they just didn't probably realize it. How do you choose the right apps for your business? Working out where to start can be really, really difficult. There are so many apps with so many different functions, and deciding what to try first can be really overwhelming. And I've done it before, where I signed up to like a million things and then I never look at any of them, and I quite often end up paying for something that I'm not using. So I'd highly recommend picking one, working with it. Well, probably planning your app stack first and deciding, but just picking one to start with and then getting a next one in. So just so that you have time to work out how it sort of operates, and then get familiar with it, and then work out what can, the next bit, which can integrate with what. So consider what issues you're facing in your business. Do you currently have a system, process, or technology which is being underutilized and could resolve the issue if it's being used to the best of its capability? For some issues, it might just be some training that's what needed. It might not be new technology. It might just be that you need to look at it in a little bit more detail. When you've prioritized the issues in your business which you don't currently have a solution for, it's time to undertake research on the most suitable technology. Finding out what apps are available, reviewing them, and comparing them can suck up hours of time that could be better spent growing your business or looking after your customers. Xero alone has 800 apps in their marketplace, but there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands globally. So how do you make sure the apps that you choose deliver the functionality that you need? It's harder to find out what an app doesn't do than what it does do. So just when you think you found the right app, a new app might appear in a marketplace which could be better. Available apps are changing daily with new apps, new functionality, or buyouts. QuickBooks recently bought the inventory management app TradeGecko, and Xero purchased the invoice lending app Wholesale. These are just recent purchases. Xero also bought HubDoc a few years ago. Those are therefore quite likely to end up being very streamlined and integrated tools. And it might be that you need to look at those ones rather than an alternative, because you might find that the integration is even better. Staying up to date with all these changes is time consuming, but it needs to happen regularly to ensure that you're staying ahead of the competition and keep improving your business. It can also be really, really tempting to just stick with a tool because you know that the change will be time consuming and difficult, but sometimes you just have to make the leap if you want to drive your business forward. We've recently, literally in the last week, just changed half of one of our softwares to another software because we felt that it was finally time after a couple of years to move to a different supplier. And it happens all the time. It's the benefit of cloud technology generally nowadays as well. With any software that you buy, you're on a rolling monthly subscription. There's no there's no tie-ins, and that's helpful. But it also means that there is a lot of movement, and so these companies are very used to it, and it's why they have a very strong onboarding process. Working directly with an app supplier can carry risk, as their whole drive is to sell you their product, not find the best products for your needs. So what are some of the systems or processes in your business that could be systemized with an app or technology? Now, I'm just going to take a look at 2 industries and some systems that they might have. So the next couple of slides will help you see that there is not a one-size-fits-all solution here. Careful planning is essential, as opposed to jumping on the bandwagon of the shiny new app that you're hearing about on social media. It simply might not be right for you. So please do ask questions or add comments as we work through each industry. We can discuss them as we go. And I'll stop at the end of the slide and have a look at any questions if anything comes up. And as I mentioned, if we don't cover your industry, please do just pop me an email at the end of this webinar and we can have a discussion in more detail. So first of all, retail and wholesale. So some of the typical process needs of a retail or wholesale business may include: what channels are you selling through? Is it online? Is it retail? Is it B2B? Are you selling in pop-ups? Have a think about that. Next, do you manufacture products from raw materials or from sub-products? How do you purchase from suppliers? How do you forecast demand to calculate when and how much to order? How many products do you sell? Do you drop ship or do you run your own warehouse? Or it might just be that you've got it in a spare bedroom or your kitchen. Do you have international sales? Where is the source of truth for stock on hand for multiple channels? Do you have product variants? Are the products barcoded for scanning? How is shipping integrated? Multiple shipping agents? Is freight uncharged? How do you reconcile freight charges, inward versus outward freight? And anybody who is dealing with Brexit and importing and exporting at the moment will know that it is a huge headache. And anything that you can do to systemize that and improve that system will save you an awful lot of time. Once again, where is your customer database? How do you market to them? How do you track sales for loyalty discounts? If your business lost a printer or a payment terminal, like a card machine, how will your business run? Do you carry spares or do you have a service contract with a point of sale supplier? That's a brief overview of retail and wholesale. Moving on. Professional services. How do you store your customer data? How do you track where leads come from against marketing spend? Do you have a sales process to convert leads to a customer, and is that automated to any degree? Even just task reminders to staff for each step or follow-up. How are your quotes and estimates structured? Are they on an automated system with electronic acceptance and integrated to your project management and invoicing systems? We've spent a number of years, so we obviously fall under the professional services. And in the last few years, we have invested a huge amount of time and money into getting our systems set up, but it's so that we can grow sustainably. So we now have, when a client books in, when they book in a discovery call, they book in Calendly. That then sort of puts in obviously a diary entry in my diary. It also creates a Zoom link for the call. We then have a system when we speak to them that we will then create a proposal. Now, when we create our proposal, first of all, when we send that proposal, it sends it through to our sort of CRM stroke workflow system. We've got a combined workflow management and CRM system. And so we send that proposal, that client record is then created in that system. And we then have a follow-up process in there, so that if we haven't heard from them, we automatically send out these various different emails depending on when it is. If they accept that proposal, it automatically then populates all of the services in our workflow management software so that we know what services we have to provide, and it creates the relevant tasks for them. But it also creates an invoice in Xero for us to then send out to the client. So as you can tell, all of these things feed in and save us an awful lot of time. You can imagine how many times we would have had to type in the client's name, email address, how much they're paying and what services they've signed up to in all of those things. But actually, we only have to do that once. So that's just one of our integrations that we have. So what job and project management tools do you need to check on jobs? Do you have anything that sort of works out how much time has been spent? And, are you working towards the deadline? Have you managed resource allocation, bottlenecks? Are tasks automatically assigned to the team in their to-do lists? Can the team, if relevant, enter their time and expenses directly into the project management system to track project profitability? That also helps obviously with staff performance and any other management reporting needs. A lot of businesses nowadays have moved away from timesheets, but sometimes it's actually important to ensure that time is recorded just to understand, not necessarily for the purposes of billing clients, but just for understanding whether a time being spent on a project is what was expected. And as you grow and you take on team, it's really important to make sure that that is tracked. Do you have automated invoice reminders or debtor follow-ups? You know, are you spending time manually sending an email to a client because they haven't paid, or phoning them up or chasing them? So there's a whole load of different things there that you can consider in professional services. So what we know so far. So we know why we need good systems and processes, obviously for efficiency, cost management, staff management, customer experience, good business decisions, and so on. We also know it's a complex problem. Which app, you know, does it do everything we need? How does it integrate to our other systems? If only there was one tool to fit all, but unfortunately there isn't, and well, there rarely is anyway. And actually, as far as I'm concerned, it's better to spread yourself across a number of different app suppliers anyway, because then A, it's easier to move and adapt if you need to. Your eggs aren't all in one basket. If something goes a bit wrong, then you know you can just hop over to another supplier. You don't need to worry about your entire systemization collapsing. We can also now identify some of the unique needs of your business and how you operate. So how do we go about implementing new technology or apps and improving our processes? With a process, of course. Gotta love a process. So there are 5 phases in the process to develop your technology or app stack. 1, start with a scope and business case to identify why, who, what, etc. 2, map out all of your existing business processes. There are consultants who do this for you, by the way, if that is the direction you might want to go. And sometimes it's easier just to get somebody else to, you just dump everything on and they kind of create it for you. 3, determine your options and select your app stack and integration design. 4, train, test, trial, and implement. 5, review your successes and ensure you have support. So I'm just going to go into each of these in a little bit more detail now. So scoping the business case. Why do we do this? Firstly, we can make sure that everyone is on the same page about the overall project and that we have clear objectives and measurements for the outcomes. If we define what success looks like right up front, we'll know when we've been successful. It also clarifies why you're doing this. What's the return on the investment? What is the business case? Will completing the project save time and money, make more money, or is it just needed for compliance? Scoping also ensures everyone gets involved upfront. Users, suppliers, customers, partners, including us as your accountant. This means that everyone's issues get into the melting pot from the very start and will minimize any resistance to change or lack of adoption when we implement. Then all the inputs and outputs, any risks or assumptions, specific inclusions or exclusions, anything you're not prepared to compromise on is recording from the beginning. And finally, it puts a time frame around the project. So this isn't a small task. This is kind of the main part of it, and it's really, really important. So once we've put the high-level scope, we then put on our business analysis hat. How do the processes work? What happens? Who makes the decisions? Who does what bit? Where are the checkpoints? Again, this is a great chance for everyone to have their say, and it's also a chance to identify bottlenecks, time wastage, lack of quality or accuracy. All of those can be addressed in the next phase of the project. As an output, all processes should be documented via a simple flowchart. It could be on a Word doc, or it could even be a quick video if that helps. I have tried using online flowchart tools. I tried recently and failed miserably. And actually nothing works like a piece of blank A4 paper and a pen, as long as everyone, can access it. So it might be a little bit harder at the current time, and it totally depends on what, who's involved, what technology you're comfortable working with, and so on. So these processes will form the basis of the final process documentation for your business. As we talked about before, this is essential to manage staff, train new staff, and handle growth. So again, even if it is just you and you're planning on growing the business, it's a really important process, really important to make sure that you have all of these things written down so that as and when you do scale, you can manage those growth points effectively. Once you've defined all your processes, you can then start looking at what apps fit. This is where a specialist can really help. Each app will have specific functions that they do or don't do. These must be mapped to your needs. Are you needing job management, or do you need detailed project management? How do you link up proposals, invoicing, time and expense, inventory, and financial management? How does each app integrate? How will it all fit together? How do you pay for the app? Number of users, the volume of transactions, and so on. How does the app look and feel to you? What is the background of the developer? What is their support like? What is their ongoing development program? And does that fit your goals? As you can tell, it's a lot of work. Demo the final shortlist, maybe run a trial to test it out. Most online softwares nowadays will give you at least 2 weeks, if not more, to actually get a feel for it. If it's a really basic thing, it might be like a 7-day one, but that's normally enough to just kind of have a look and get the feel for it. Then use a prepared evaluation sheet that works for you. For example, price versus functionality versus ease of use versus local product versus user group versus development program, and so on. Put your most important criteria up at the top. Based on the results of the evaluation, define your app stack, work out how to train everyone, and implement the new tools, and finalize the last stage of the project budget. And finally, implement your app stack. So you'll complete any testing, trials, or parallel runs. You update your process documentation or flowcharts to reflect the new processes. And then you use this to train your team or yourself and update job descriptions if relevant. Perform any data migration and cleansing, and then go live, either phasing things in or for a full stop changeover. Generally, I would say in my experience, most people choose to parallel run systems for a while, which can be time consuming and quite expensive in some situations. And also it doesn't provide you with the same deadline. Whereas if you've got a full stop changeover, you've got a deadline, you know that everything is going to be turned off and everything has to be ready for that specific time. There are obviously risks involved with that, and there's quite likely to be some early teething problems. But it really depends on how you work and how your team work, and how you can manage that effectively. Once completed, like any project, it's ideal to review what happened and measure your success against what was agreed in the project scope. Did we meet the business case? Are all our specific needs catered for? Is the team happy? Are customers happy? Take on any learnings and implement actions to resolve or learn for your next review. And it is something that needs to be reviewed. Are all integrations and reconciliations working? Do you have checkpoints to ensure quality and accuracy? One of the main things that I notice with people, for example, using Xero, is that they assume that because things are automatic and automated and it's a computer and sometimes there's AI and all those kinds of things involved in technology nowadays, it's that you assume it's going to be 100% accurate. And actually it never is. There's always a point where, for example, a bank feed might drop out, or the bank for some bizarre reason duplicates transactions. And it's really important to make sure that you have checkpoints to ensure the quality and your accuracy of your work with any technology that you use in your business. Do you, your team, or any new team members need additional training? Consider splitting training of monthly functions from daily functions to ease the brain overload. You don't want to be doing it all in one go. And then finally, set a time for the next review and a mechanism to track ongoing team ideas to consider in that review. And again, if it's just you, make sure that you have monitoring points. You know, how much time is it now taking you, for example, to do a proposal? How many proposals were you able to raise compared to what you were able to do before you had any sort of automated software? A formal review should be completed at least annually to keep up with change. A review will also be essential for any major business decisions that affect your business structure, processes, volumes, and staffing. So, as you can see, systemizing your business to increase efficiency and return is a very involved process. The benefits to be gained are potentially massive too. For example, if you could improve your overall efficiency and lift your return by just 1%, if your turnover is 500,000 a year, that's the equivalent of an extra 5k of profit every year. Of course, you'll be looking for a gain of more than 1%, but what I'm trying to say is that even with 1%, it's a huge return. Likewise, what could you do if systemization freed up 5 hours of your team's time every week? What would your life be like? What other things could you do? Could you spend that 5 hours on your personal life? If at the moment you're working 50 hours a week and you only want to work 40, well, freeing up an extra 5 is half of the way there. Or it might be that you want to spend 5 hours a week more on sales and marketing, driving the business forward. So what would your life be like? What if you could reduce errors and mistakes using better automation? How much stress would that reduce for you? And obviously in product-based businesses, if you can reduce errors and mistakes, then that reduces wastage and therefore improves your gross profit margin. The aim of this webinar is to help you see the benefit of taking a strategic and planned approach to systemizing your business. We want you to get the benefits of better return, greater efficiency, and reduced risk of errors. So what are your next steps from here? Doing nothing is not an option, obviously. Doing what you've always done is unlikely to give you the same results as you've had in the past. And remember, we want you to have improved return, more free time, and less stress. Remember to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. Planning for sustainable improvements starts with you and the leaders in your business. So it's really important that you do actually set aside this time for yourself. And sometimes it might mean that you have to step out of your business for a day, or you have to give up a day of your weekend in order to get these things done. But once you have done that initial scoping part of the process, everything else kind of just starts feeding through. So just spend some time, think about what all of these things can do. And it is a really difficult one, but you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. I know someone, a very close friend of mine, was trying to implement some new software, which was going to save huge amounts of her time, like huge amounts of time. But she knew that it was going to take an entire day to get everything set up, possibly even more than a day. And it just went on and on and on. And eventually she got there. But it was one of those things that she knew she needed to do it because it would save her time, but she just needed to actually set aside that time in order to actually get going with it. Next one, make a clear plan. Don't jump at those bright, shiny objects. Don't go for the latest new piece of tech that you've heard about just because somebody else is raving about it. Read about it by all means. See if it will help you and benefit your business. And maybe sign up for a trial, but just don't jump in with both feet. Focus on what you can do as opposed to worrying about what is out of your control. And that applies to everything in life at the moment, I suppose. And finally, we are here for you and want to help. So moving on to how we can help you. First of all, the information in this educational webinar is entirely general in nature, as I've already explained, and is no substitute for specific tailored advice and support. There are several ways that we can help you more specifically beyond today's webinar. And as I've mentioned, there are other people as well. There are workflow specialists. There are business process people. There's a whole load of people out there. So, it's not necessarily an accountant. And if you would like any other introductions to other people, I have people in my network that I can potentially put you in touch with. We would love to help you to make a better plan with your systemization. I'm not here to sell you technology or apps. There are some accountants that have gone down that route. I've stayed away from it. So what I want you to do is to step back and define what it is that you want from your technology in your business. For example, do you just want to get better at using the technology that you already have? Or do you want to assess whether there are better options out there to increase your efficiency? Stepping back is all about making a better plan, scoping what you really want from technology first. In other words, that's step 1 we talked about, as opposed to jumping to step 4, which is obviously the implementation. By scoping the work first, you can then start to involve the right technology experts to help to map out your processes, review or build the app stack, and then implement the right solution. Liken this to the planning stage of building a house. Work out what you want first, what your budget is, and what you are looking to achieve before you start talking to the builder. It's a great analogy, even if I do say so myself. But it makes it a little bit more understandable when it comes to your tech. If you're not quite ready to commit to a paid service, we have an app stack project worksheet, which can help you make a plan for building your app stack. We can then, if you want to, we can then meet with you to review your worksheet and to ensure you've scoped all your projects and have a realistic plan. So that's the one that's £50 plus VAT, and that would be done on a 30-minute Zoom call. If you know that you need help with the whole process from planning to implementation and review, you might be interested in our full service project scoping service. And that would be an entirely bespoke fee. I don't tend to do anything with a bespoke fee, but every business is very different. And so it would just depend on the size of your business and your end goal. And if you're just completely unsure where to start, if you're not a client of ours already, you can book in for a complimentary meeting. This would normally be a discovery call and sort of establish your goals for your business. And, you know, it doesn't require you to sign anything up. It doesn't necessarily even mean it will send a proposal to you, but sometimes it can just help to talk your goals through your business with somebody else and see what might be of benefit. I will move on to our final parting thought. Software is the magic thing whose importance only goes up over time. So make a simple plan today, commit to at least 3 actions that you'll take as a result of today's webinar. Write them down, give each of them an owner and a completion date. And remember, if you need our support, we are here for you. And finally, thank you very much for attending this webinar and giving up your Monday afternoon. When this ends, you will be taken to a feedback survey, and we would really appreciate if you could complete it. It just helps us understand what additional topics that we could deliver, how useful it was, and it just means that we can continuously improve the service that we provide. I hope that I've given you plenty of ideas to ponder and some clear next steps for you and your business, and I look forward to seeing you soon.